I got 3 questions for you. 1, do you love robots? 2, are you a parent? And 3, where to even begin? Something that all of the ROZZUMs ask all of their customers after they finish with their satisfactory experience. Because the Wild Robot follows the epic adventure of ROZZUM Unit 7134, but you can call her Roz. She is shipwrecked on an uninhabited island and must learn to adapt to the harsh surroundings, gradually building relationships with the animals on the island and becoming the adoptive parent of a orphaned baby gosling. Okay. Inspired by Peter Brown's illustrated middle school novel series running since 2016, DreamWorks Animation's Wild Robot is yet another unexpected work of art by a fairly inconsistent studio. The animation studio's track record has been a rather moderate one, with the only thing that is consistent is the pattern of stories ranging from average to astonishing, with the Wild Robot program more towards the latter. As of this review, I can say that after watching The Wild Robot with zero expectations, an open heart and open mind, and an undivided attention on second watch, because I did watch this in the theaters and I did miss a large chunk of it because of my conditions and not really being awake and aware enough to see all the films. So I just came out of the film saying it was fine. I don't know what all the buzz is about, calling it a masterpiece, blah, blah, blah. And I told myself I must go back and watch this to do this review. And then I'm watching it with the intent of doing this review as of this recording. And now I see what people are saying about The Wild Robot. I see why everyone loves The Wild Robot. The Wild Robot will get you in the feeling like you're watching an older Pixar film, like one of the greatest Pixar films, but then you have to remind yourself this is DreamWorks Animation. This film, I didn't think I'd be saying this. I didn't want to allow the general consensus of critics and audiences to influence my opinions on the film despite what I actually feel, but here we go. I actually believe that The Wild Robot could actually rival Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. And that's crazy to think, because Puss in Boots: The Last Wish is a genuine masterpiece by DreamWorks Animation and already one of the best animated films ever. Let me explain. Despite lacking any prior knowledge about the middle school novel, I was amazed with just how director Chris Sanders managed to adapt a story about an android and its relationship with wildlife and make it as sentimental as the book trilogy presumably is. Which, 2 things. 1, we got a trilogy of books, so there you go. DreamWorks Animation is already in development of a Wild Robot 2, so they could easily have 2 be based on the second book and have part 3 if they are going to make a part 3, because they will indeed turn this into a trilogy. They have the easiest blueprint out of any of these DreamWorks franchises, because there are only 3 books that talk about the Wild Robot, and we have 1 movie out of 3 books. So they can literally make 2 more movies based off of the part 2 and the part 3 of the novel series. So easy money. 2, it's Chris Sanders. This is the man who gave us The Croods. Despite lacking any prior knowledge about the middle school novel, I was amazed with just how director Chris Sanders managed to adapt a story about an android and its relationship with wildlife and make it as sentimental as the book trilogy presumably is. Chris Sanders was actually the appropriate director to write and adapt this story because of his unmatched ability to make the audience feel for the creature or sentient being of his choice. Whether we're talking about a dragon, because he did How to Train Your Dragon, the original one, and now a robot, and of course an alien, because he's also the same man who did the classic Lilo and Stitch. From the moment Roz gets activated and navigates the wilderness on the island, you easily know that she is not supposed to be there, because she's supposed to be like a house bot. She's supposed to be like the bots that most of us will probably have in the next 20 years in our houses, no matter where you live, or maybe if you live in like the upper class communities where you have robotic housemaids that want to get certain tasks done, because that's what her purpose is, to fulfill a task that you will give her. And of course, those tasks being expected to be like get groceries, do yard work, play tennis with the kids, ship a delivery wherever, but not necessarily take care of a baby goose. Funny how life works though, right? But you nevertheless root for her to be given a task and fulfill her purpose when she does navigate the island and interact with the wild animals. This seemingly impossible task comes in the form of parenting.
Okay.
Yes, that job right there, parenting. The one that is very difficult, but still worthwhile in the very end. This approach kind of caught me off guard on first watch because I felt that The Wild Robot could have been a perfect opportunity to be this like social commentary on the influence technology can have on nature and vice versa, and that just ends up being the bonus, because while the film doesn't overtly tell you how nature should have the influence and should have a hand on technology and not the other way around, or how technology can influence nature in return without necessarily taking over, because we already know where we're at with the society with AI here and AI there, and AIs becoming sentient without an engineer to keep them on a leash. But no, that's not actually what this film is about. If you do get those vibes, like I did at times in the film, that is only the byproduct of what this film actually is about, because at the heart of it, The Wild Robot at its core is a story about parenthood, in which the illustration of a baby gosling representing nature being raised by ROZZUM representing AI pays off in a plethora of ways. The audience gets reminded that they are not just wired to one kind of creation, but there are all types of ways to experience the beauty of all types of life, even if it is artificial. There's more than one way to hear than just with your ears. There's more than one way to see than just with your eyes. There's more than one way to feel than just with your hands. You know how I know? Because it all comes from the soul. So when we see an artificial intelligence who, yes, can hear and see and feel because she has hands, although she's not made of flesh and bone, she still has a soul. Even though she can't really hear from her ears or see or have all of these five senses that a human has, she is listening with a whole different part of herself. And the reason why we respond to The Wild Robot this very way, even if we don't understand what the premise of this, why the premise of this film is the way that it is, we are responding with a different part of ourselves. We are responding with our hearts, with our souls. That's why we buy into this parenthood story, even though it's about a goose being raised by a robot. And you probably wonder, why can't it be a story about geese, a flock of geese? We kind of had an animated film about a story of a flock of geese migrating from another animated studio. Can you guess what it is? I basically just gave it a hint. But when you look at the relationship between Bright Bill, the Gosling, and the ROZZUM 7134, you see a lot of things. You don't just see an android caring for a baby bird. What you see through this relationship is how technology and relationship can be one with each other, and how this oneness can also make an impact on the environment, most preferably on the natural side of the environment, while we got the artificial corporation looking down on this notion of oneness and thinking that no, it just has to be us. We are the higher life forms, so we are the only creatures that matter, which is always an interesting topic. Is it like higher life forms matter, or is all creation precious? Which I, for one, lean more to the latter, because it's still a oneness thing. And there is no this or that. There is no either or, because that creates division and that creates monologue, not a dialogue. It is a guarantee that what speaks volumes to the masterful stature of both this movie, The Wild Robot, and Puss in Boots: The Last Wish are the thought-provoking narratives that tackle universal themes and relevant subject matters in innovative ways. For Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, we see a character from a franchise audiences already love, and then after years and years of having no film because of its supposed conclusion, we get the return of a character from that universe, and then along with that return, we get this powerful story about mortality and humility and the value of living one life and counting your seconds as well as your blessings while you're burning through 8 of your 9 lives. And then here comes 2 years later about a film that's adapting the story of a robot getting stuck in the wilderness, learning to not only adapt to her new surroundings that she was not made for, but also learning to feel. And I feel like anytime we get any animated films about a sentient being or a piece of hardware developing a soul, it just always works. I don't know how this works, but I don't care, because at the end of the day, that is what cinema is about. Cinema makes you feel and not just watch. And when I was watching The Wild Robot, I could also feel what Roz was feeling every time Bright Bill looked up to her, or wanted to belong and couldn't, and then eventually flew on his own. I love the idea that the whole reason why this android was set up to care for a baby goose of all things. It couldn't have been a baby possum. It couldn't have been a baby raccoon. It couldn't have been a baby squirrel. Of all the things in nature, of all the things in the wilderness, it had to be a gosling. You know why? Because the gosling growing up into a goose and learning to fly on his own and leaving the nest, you know what that's called? Empty nest syndrome. Which any parent that watches their kids grow up and leave the nest knows exactly what that's like, which is why when a parent specifically watches The Wild Robot, they're going to be stopping more than the person who doesn't have kids, and that's okay. Because even the person that does not have kids, myself, young, single, not married, watches this film, I still feel some type of way on the inside. I still feel some type of sentiment on the inside. But for the parent, though, they're going to be bawling their eyes out, man. And this is about a robot. This is about a animated film that is not from Disney. Something that is coming from DreamWorks that is a lot better than what we've gotten from Disney in like the past 3 years. Don't get mad at me. Don't start shouting in the comment section below. But if you want to remind me about any masterpieces that Disney has put out, please feel free in the comments to tell me. Meanwhile, these films will earn the stamp of approval as modern classics, fam, courtesy of the animation styles and voiceover performances crafting the tone and personality of these worlds. And you know why this animation design is kind of fitting for DreamWorks? Because DreamWorks, what I learned from another YouTube channel whose name I can't even pronounce, but they do very great film analyses. I think either this channel or another channel said that DreamWorks excels at loosely adapting children's stories. Shrek was based off of the Shrek movie from 2001 is loosely based on a elementary school book, How to Train Your Dragon, and many more. A lot of these DreamWorks animated films are loosely based on a children's story, and when they make these movies and change some things up, it manages to be a success, and that's where they always found their footing. No wonder we kept getting more of these things. No wonder DreamWorks started to find their voice once they touched the Shrek franchise and then touched other franchises and beyond. With a current 97% recommendation on Rotten Tomatoes, The Wild Robot inhabits itself with a simple and sentimental premise about parenthood that is executed wonderfully through the lens of nature becoming one with technology. So, on a scale of 1 to 10, the level of satisfactory I feel with The Wild Robot is a 9.8 out of 10. If you feel that I've completed each and every task, feel free to like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment on the section below. And I will see you all next time. Ahoo!